CreateSlice, a function that accepts an initial state, an object of reducer functions, and a slice name, and automatically generates action creators and action types that correspond to the reducer's end state. This API is the standard approach for writing Redux logic. Internally, it uses createAction and createReducer, so you may also use Immer to write mutating, immutable updates. And here we have two choices. We have TypeScript and we have the basic JavaScript. So we're gonna go with JavaScript, and you can check out the TypeScript if you want here. So this is an example that they're giving us, and in the previous video I showed you how to install Redux Toolkit. So I have a folder, I think here. I'm gonna go to my Windows PowerShell. I'm gonna type in ls, and I have a folder, I think it's Redux. Let me see, Redux. Okay, I'm gonna go into I think I have a ls, and I have a folder named test. So yeah, I'm gonna cd test, and now what I'm gonna do is just code space that, so I can open it in Visual Studio Code. And so we have this folder here, and we have here our store, we have our counter. So in this folder feature is where we have the counter folder, and we have the counter API, we have the app.js where we're importing counter from the counter folder, we have the index.js, and we have the create root. What else do we have? We have the store, configure store, we have the reducers that we're talking right now, the counter slice. So here we are importing create a sync thang and CreateSlice. So, and you can run it with, it was the script, it was star, so npm star. So if you type in npm star, it's gonna open in port 3000, I guess. Let me see. So yeah, it's gonna go into port 3000. So right now we're gonna check out this example here. So we are importing CreateSlice as we see here in the counter slice. It was here, yeah, CreateSlice. Yeah, we are importing CreateSlice from Redux.js/toolkit. We have this initial state, and we are setting it to this object with a key value per value 0. Then we have this variable named CounterSlice, and we are setting it to CreateSlice. And inside of the parentheses, we're gonna pass in this object with some properties. It's gonna have the property name with the set to the counter string. We are gonna have the initial state where we are gonna have our reducers, and we're gonna open curly braces, and we're gonna have increment, decrement, and increment by amount. And increment, we're gonna have a state as the argument, and inside of the curly braces we're gonna have the same state, that value plus plus. We're gonna have the decrement, again we're passing the state, it's gonna be a state at value minus minus. And finally we're gonna have the increment by amount, and this time we're gonna have two arguments, state and action. And inside of the curly braces we're gonna have the state at value plus equal sign the action that payload. So in order to export that, what we do is we export counts, and we're exporting the increment, the decrement, and the increment by amount, and we put that inside of the curly braces, and we are exporting it from the counter slice that actions, and then we export the default, and we export the counter slice that reducer. As you can see, the name is counter slice, so it's going to be counter slice that reducer. Then we have the parameters. CreateSlice accepts a single configuration object parameter with the following options. So we have this function named CreateSlice, and inside of that we're going to have an object with properties. So here we have in the comments, we have a name, used an action type. So we have the name set to string, we have the initial state set to any, we have the reducers, and here we have the object, we have angle brackets, we have the string, and also we have the reducer function or reducer and prepare object. This is an object of case reducers. Key names will be used to generate actions. Then we have a builder callback function used to add more reducers or an additional object of case reducers where the keys should be other action types. So we have the extra reducers with the object, we have the string, the reducer function, and then we have this error function that it takes a builder and the action reducer map builder state and then set it to void. And then again, this is just a general overview. In the next video we're gonna see a different example. We're gonna work with Visual Studio Code, but for now we're gonna focus on this initial state. The initial state value for this slice of state. This may also be a lazy initializer function, which should return an initial state value when called. This will be used whenever the reducer is called with undefined as its state value, and is primarily useful for cases like reading initial state from local storage. We have name, a string name for this slice of state. Generated action type constants will use this as a prefix. We have the reducers, an object containing Redux case reducer functions intended to handle a specific action type equivalent to a single case statement and a switch. The keys and the object will be used to generate string action type constants, and these will show up in the Redux DevTools extension when they are dispatched. Also, if any other part of the application happens to dispatch an action with the exact same type stream, the corresponding reducer will be run. Therefore, you should give the function descriptive names. This object will be passed to create reducers so the reducers may safely mutate the state they are given. And again, we have TypeScript, JavaScript, so we are importing the CreateSlice from the @redux.js/toolkit. We have this counter slice, this is the variable, and we are setting it to create a slice. Inside of the parentheses, we're going to pass an object with the property name set to the string counter, the initial state set to 0, and the reducers, we are going to have the increment that is going to be set to this arrow function that is going to take the state, it's going to take this argument, and then we're going to have the state plus 1. We'll handle the action type counter/increment that is inside single quotes and then inside backticks. Here we have customizing generated action creators. If you need to customize the creation of the payload value of an action creator by the means of a prepare callback, the value of the appropriate field of the reducer's argument object should be an object instead of a function. This object must contain two properties, reducer and prepare. The value of the reducer field should be the case reducer function, while the value of the prepare field should be the prepare call function. And here they give us another example. We are importing again CreateSlice and nano ID from Redux.js/toolkit, where the variable to do a slice is now set to CreateSlice. Inside of the parentheses, we're going to have an object with properties name set to the string to do's, the initial state set to an empty set of brackets, and then we're going to have the reducers. Inside of that, we're going to have curly braces. We have add to do. We're going to open curly braces. We're going to have the reducer that is going to be set to an arrow function, and this arrow function is going to take two arguments, state and action. And in the curly braces, we're going to use the state.push. This is a method, and we're pushing the action.payload. Then we're going to have the prepare, and it's going to be set to another arrow function that is going to take one argument that is going to be text. And inside of the curly braces, we're going to have this variable ID set to the nano ID and we're going to return this object, this key value pair, with the value is going to be the payload, where the key is going to be the payload and the value is going to be this object with ID and the text. Then we have the extra reducers. One of the key concepts of Redux is that each slice reducer owns its slice of state, and that many slice reducers can independently respond to the same action type. Extra reducers allows CreateSlice to respond to other action types besides the types it has generated, as case reducers specified with extra reducers are meant to reference external actions. They will not have actions generated in slice actions, as with reducers. This case reducer will also be passed to CreateReducer and may mutate their state safely. If two fields from reducers and extra reducers happen to end up with the same action type stream, the function from reducer will be used to handle that action type. So here we have the extra reducers builder callback notation. The recommended way of using extra reducers is to use a callback that receives an action reducer map builder instance. This builder notation is also the only way to add match reducers and default case reducers to our slice. In this example, we are importing the create action and CreateSlice. As you can see here, in this case, we are importing the create async thank and CreateSlice, and again, it's coming from the Redux.js /toolkit. Since in the previous video we installed the Redux Toolkit, as you can see in the package.json and the dependencies, we have the Redux/toolkit, and we have Redux. We have React, React we have React Redux. So now we have this variable increment by that is set to the create action, and we're passing this string increment by. We have the variable decrement that is set to create action, and we pass in this string decrement. We have the function sRejected action, and we are passing action, and inside of the curly braces we are gonna return the action that type that ends with and the string rejected. Then we have this function CreateSlice, and inside of the parentheses we're gonna have this object with the properties name set to the string counter. The initial state is gonna be set to 0. The reducer is gonna be set to an empty set of curly braces. We're gonna have extra reducers that is gonna be set to an arrow function that is gonna take one argument that is gonna be the builder, and in the curly braces we're gonna have the builder that add case, and it's gonna take two arguments. The first argument is going to be the increment by, and the second argument is going to be a parenthesis that is going to take a state in action, and in the curly braces it's just going to be a set of empty curly braces. Action is inferred correctly here if using TS or TypeScript. You can change calls or have separate builder add case lines each time. So here we have another add case, and this time is gonna take a decrement, it's gonna take the state in action, and it's gonna be set to an empty set of curly braces. You can match a range of action types. So now we have the add that matcher, and it's gonna take the sRejected action. Action will be inferred as a rejected action due to sRejected action being defined as a type guard. And here we have the arrow function that is going to take the state and the action, and is going to have an empty set of curly braces and provide a default case if no other handlers match. So we have the add that default case that is going to take an arrow function taking the arguments state and action, and is going to be set to an empty set of curly braces. Here we recommend using this API as it has better TypeScript support and thus IDE autocomplete even for JavaScript users, as it will correctly infer the action type and the reducer based on the provided action created. It's particularly useful for working with actions produced by create action and create async thank. Here create async thank that we are seeing here in our folder here in our test folder. I think it was in the here in the counter slice inside of the counter folder, inside of the features folder. Here we have create thank, create async thank, as you can see here. So if you wanna you wanna go into more details, you can check out this link here. That is the builder callback notation section of the create reducer reference for details on how to use the builder.add case, builder.add matcher, and builder.add default. You can check out that link is here. So now we're gonna see the extra reducers map object notation. Like reducers, extra reducers can be an object containing Redux case reducer functions. However, the key should be other Redux string action type constants, and CreateSlice will not auto-generate action types or action creators for reducers included in this parameter. Action creators that were generated using create action may be used directly as the keys here using computer property syntax. So here we have this variable increment by that is set to create action, and we are passing this string name increment by. So the function CreateSlice, we'll open parentheses, and inside of the object we're gonna have this properties name set to the string counter, the initial state set to 0, the reducer set to an empty set of curly braces. Then we have the extra reducers. Inside of this object we're gonna have key value pairs. This is gonna be the key, that is gonna be the increment in brackets. The value is gonna be an arrow function that is gonna take two arguments, state and action, and it's gonna return the state plus the action that payload. Outside of that we're gonna have the key value pair song/other/action, and the key is gonna be another arrow function that is gonna take a state and action as the argument, and then it's gonna be just an empty set of curly braces. Here they give us some tips. We recommend using the builder callback API as the default, especially if you're using TypeScript. If you do not use the builder callback and are using TypeScript, you will need to use action creator.type or action creator.toStream to force the TypeScript compiler to accept the computer property. Please see usage with TypeScript for further details. So if you wanna following along with TypeScript, you can check out this link. Now we have return value. CreateSlice will return an object that looks like this. So we have an curly braces, we have the name set to string, we have the reducer function, actions, we have the record, angle brackets, string, comma, action creator, we have the case reducers, we have again the record string, but this case we have case reducer, and as you can see these are camel notations. Finally we have the get initial state that is set to an arrow function that takes no arguments and just the state. Each function defined in the reducer's argument will have a corresponding action creator generated using create action and included in the results action field using the same function name. The generated reducer function is suitable for passing to the Redux combined reducers function as a slice reducer. Here we have, you may want to consider the structure in the action creators and exporting them individually for ease of searching for references in larger code bases. The functions passed to the reducer's parameters can be accessed through the case reducer return field. This can be particularly useful for testing or direct access to reducers created inline. Results function get initial state provides access to the initial state value given to the slice. If a lazy state initializer was provided, it will be called in a fresh value return. Here we have a note. The result object is conceptually similar to a Redux code structure. You have the link here. The actual code structure you use is up to you, but there are a couple caveats to keep in mind. Actions are not exclusively limited to a single slice. Any part of the reducer logic can and should respond to any dispatch action. At the same time, circular references can cause import problems if slices A and B are defined in separate files and each file tries to import to others so it can listen to other actions. Unexpected behavior may occur. So here we have this final example that they're giving us here. Yeah, we are importing CreateSlice, we are importing create action from @redux.js/toolkit, we are importing create store, And if we go here into our folder, if we go into the app, we have store, and here as you can see we have counter reducer, configure store, and here we have reducer. So here we are importing create a store, we are importing combine reducers, but we are importing this time from Redux. So we have the variables increment by that is set to create action. We are passing this string increment by. We have this variable decrement by that is set to create action, and we're passing this variable decrement by. We have this variable counter set to create a slice, and again we're passing this object inside of the parentheses with the properties name set to counter, initial state set to 0. The reducer is going to be increment, that is going to be an arrow function that takes one argument state and is going to be set to state plus 1. The decrement is going to be an arrow function, it's going to take an argument state and then it's going to be a state minus 1. We're going to have multiply, we're going to open curly braces, we're going to have a reducer and it's going to take an arrow function, take two argument this time, state and action, and it's going to be a state multiply action that payload. Then we have the or just the symbol asterisk. Then we have prepare, and again it's going to take an arrow function, takes just one argument value and it's going to be set to an object here that is going to take a payload, that's a key, and the value is going to be value or the number 2. Fallback if the payload is a falsy value. That is that. Then we have the builder callback API recommended for TypeScript users. So we have the extra reducers that is going to take an arrow function that is going to take the builder, and we're going to use the builder.add case. So we're going to pass in an arrow function with arguments increment by and this parentheses with the state and action, and we're going to return a state plus action that payload. We're going to have the builder.add case and we're going to pass in decrement by the parentheses state action, and it's going to return a state minus action that payload. So that is that. And we're going to have this argument that is going to be user, that is going to be set to the CreateSlice. The name is going to be user. The initial state is going to be set to this object with the key value pairs. So name is going to be set to an empty string and the age is going to be set to this number 20. We have the reducers, set username, we're going to set it to an arrow function that is going to take a state and action, and it's going to be a state that name and it's going to be set to action that payload. Mutate the state all you want with immer. Finally, we're going to have the map object API, and here we see the extra reducers. So in the curly braces in the object we're going to have the counted are actions that increment, that is inside of the brackets, and colon, we open parentheses. So this is an arrow function that is going to take a state and action, and then we're going to have a state at age, and this is the operator plus equal sign 1. And now we're going to have this variable reducer that is going to be set to combine reducers, and we're going to have these objects counter that reducer and user set to user that reducer. Then we're going to have the store that is going to be set to create a store. We're passing the reducer, and we're going to be using a store that dispatch that is going to take counter that actions that increment. We're going to have the store that dispatch counter that actions that increment. We have the store that dispatch that is going to take the counter that actions multiply, and this is going to be 3. We're going to have the store that dispatch counters the actions that multiply, and then the cancel that log that is going to be backticks $, counter that actions that decrement, and finally the store that dispatch that we are going to use the users that action that set username, and in this case we're going to pass in this string named Eric. And